Good evening and welcome to the Read Down, where your weekly progressive political hot take from the Stonewall Democratic Club. On tonight's episode, we are going to be discussing the life and legacy of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died last week at the age of 87. We're going to be talking about where we go from here and how to use her legacy to fight back. Of course, we'll read the GOP for filth as we do every week and give you the latest 2020 developments. This is the Read Down. Okay, and welcome. It is great to see everybody. My name is Jonathan Welch. I'm the main moderator for tonight, and I am joined by my my co-hosts, Ebony Murphy-Root.
Hello.
And Alex Mohajer.
Hey, everybody. It's me, and we decide.
Woo!
We decide, and we are joined by special guest. I'm very excited to have her this week, Madison Shepard.
Hello. Hi.
Everybody's lit really well. We were talking about this before we went live. We're excited because everybody sounds good. Everybody looks good. I'm really excited to have everybody here for this episode where we're going to talk about the saddest thing that's happened to us this year. But before we do, I have a few housekeeping notes that I wanted to offer to everyone. First, our National Vote at Home initiative has gone completely live. So every video for all 16 states is live right now. You can check us out at stonewall.vote. Today is National Voter Registration Day. So if you are not sure if you're registered to vote, maybe you actually think you're registered to vote and you're like, I know I'm registered. I'm always getting stuff. A lot of people end up getting kicked off the rolls. So please check out stonewall.vote right now so that you can either register or check your voter registration or come up with a voting plan. What else? Oh my God. Stonewall Spotlight, our premiere podcast, has a new episode out. Our premiere banner podcast. So give them a listen. It is such a great episode. We're getting closer to the election, so we're talking about all of that. I do a whole thing about the Senate and nerd out for about 7.5 minutes. And then next week, we are going to have a little bit of a different episode of the Read Down because it's the first presidential debate. So you can tune into us for a debate recap and read down after that happens. The debate goes from 6 to 7:30, so we'll see you here at 7:30. All right. Oh, one more thing. Alex, should we talk about Drag Bingo for Black Lives?
Yes, Drag Bingo for Black Lives. It's a Stonewall event that's happening this Saturday, and it's raising money for Black Lives Matter and for nonprofit groups based out of LA, that including one that's started by Lucky Fuller, who's a trans activist in LA. And we're having some bingo, we're having some drag, and if you've lost your mind with everything that's going on in the world right now and our hardcore morning RBG the way that I know I am, and you need a little change of pace, come play some bingo with us. The tickets are pretty cheap, and God, like we haven't been to drag shows in so long, and it's been kind of fun. So Roxy Wood is the host of it, and you can visit stonewalldems.org or our Facebook page to get tickets. Drag Bingo for Black Lives.
Yeah, Roxy's got balls. That's her whole motto. And let me tell you, Roxy's fantastic, and she does. She's done Drag Bingo at Hamburger Mary's. She does it regularly, so she's a pro. She's going to be a blast. So I can't wait. Yeah. It's for a really good cause. So we hope that we see you guys on Saturday night. So and everybody,
Jonathan,
yes.
We should also note that this Thursday, Deborah Messing will be appearing on the talk show The Real to promote the National Vote at Home initiative on behalf of Stonewall. So everyone tune in on Thursday. We're very proud of that. I just got off the phone with her publicist. Very exciting.
Yeah, listen, this is the most that we've tooted our own horn at the beginning of a Read Down episode.
Toot, mother.
Okay, we're explicit. We can swear. It's fine. But thank you for.
I censored myself.
That's fine. This is a family show. I think my sister-in-law is watching, and my 1-year-old nephew is probably, with her. So we don't want him
My
to
mother
pick up those
actually asked
nasty
me to
words.
stop. My mother actually asked me to stop cussing so much on this show. So
Sorry, Alex.
you are very intelligent. Why are you talking with these bad F words?
She's right.
My mom.
Wow. Okay. Listen, I'm going to respect your mom, and I'm going to do my best not to use the F word as well. So let's get into what we wanted to. Wow. Okay. Friday. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at the age of 87. She had been battling pancreatic cancer off and on for the last 10 years. This was her third bout with cancer. She, of course, is known as the progressive voice of the Supreme Court. She leans the furthest left out of the 9 justices. She has served on the bench for 27 years, appointed by Bill Clinton, and she has gotten more progressive over time. There are so many things to say about RBG. I was devastated when I heard that she passed away, but of course, one of my initial thoughts was, well, this is, the poor woman held it together for so long, and really hung on as long as she could. So I want to get our feelings on her before we really dig deep into her legacy, and then we talk about what comes next. I'm going to give it over to Madison, who's our special guest, and I just want to get your feelings on the passing of the justice.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I actually called my friend. I blissfully was not on my phone for about an hour and a half on Friday, and that's when the news broke about RPG. And it was just like really, I like literally couldn't get off the floor. Like I called my friend to like gossip about something, and they were like, "We can do this later. This is big news." And I was like, "You're right." And then I just sat on my kitchen floor for about 30 minutes and cried. I was very upset about it just because there's so much writing on this upcoming election, including, appointing a new Supreme Court justice into her seat. And I don't know if I can sit through another Kavanaugh appointment hearing or whatever that was. I should also say I'm not really a political comic, but clearly I'm following the news enough. So forgive me if I call it the wrong thing or whatever. But
listen, you're doing great. You're doing great. And I mean, this is I wanted to bring you on because first of all, I think you're very funny, and I needed to lighten the mood because, oh boy, it was a very, it was a really sad and certainly on top of being sad, so much pressure placed on this one seat. So Ebony, how do you, what are our thoughts on just like how much was on RBG's shoulders, and what were your feelings?
To me, it makes clear just how precarious our democracy is. If all of, liberalism or small d democracy was on the shoulders of this octogenarian, then that shows that our democracy is not very strong at all. So I am saddened. I'm upset. I'm disappointed that it has come to this. And I'm feeling a lot of fear. I'm trying to be upbeat and be optimistic, like all of my good joyful warrior activist friends are saying. But I'm nervous about this. I have no idea what's going to happen. And I hope that we Dems make a lot of noise and shake the table and hold on to this seat through the election. I hope we can do it.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about, what the action steps are, where we are with that. We obviously know that things do look dark, but there is life beyond this. We are now ruthless, as our episode says. Alex, we talked about this a little bit on Friday, and then we actually got to talk on Saturday. And I think that your attitude kind of changed, and I am with you, and I want to explore that a little bit.
Well, on Friday, I saw the news right when it broke, and I just kept repeating the F word over and over and over again. And I first of all, RBG is one of my heroes. She has been since I was in law school. She became an icon in her 80s, and for good reason. She is a champion of she's a champion of the movement for gender equality, for for equal rights, and she was a liberal icon. And I have an RBG coloring book from my days in law school that really, I've always had it right here in my room, just right there. And I regret that we didn't even have a second to mourn. And I just, because the implications of her passing are just so weighty. And I was really, really despondent on Friday. I was just like, we're screwed. It's over. I had so much anxiety, and then I woke up Saturday morning and I was angry. And I thought, if this badass woman could go to bat for us and write some of the most salient dissenting opinions. Dissent was the name of the game with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And if you can go back and read some of her dissents, they are so fantastic. If dissent was the name of her game and she stood for our rights, then we can fight at least through November to make sure we honor her legacy. And so, we got to some brainstorming, me and Jonathan, and I just think, this is going to be hard, but we shouldn't take it lying down, especially in the face of Republican hypocrisy and we will, I'm sure, talk about this. But we shouldn't take it lying down. We should fight just the way that she did. So.
Yeah, I felt, so Friday was my birthday, and I was celebrating my birthday with some friends at a park in Pasadena, distanced with our blankets, had a nice plan. Kate, our stage manager, was there, and basically the news broke as soon as we arrived. And it was just like, of course, this is, how do I even react to this? Because it was just, it was, I didn't want to be like, RBG ruined my birthday. She didn't. I felt instantly angry. I felt instantly as though this was a galvanizing moment. Like what was about to happen with all of the people that I got together with. I knew that people were going to feel as though they were hopeless, but what I feel when figures die, key figures, people who are, the head of progressive movements, people who we look towards as leaders, when they pass away, in a way, it's really incumbent on us to pick that right up as though they never dropped the torch in the first place, because they really haven't. And, she empowered so many people. She empowered so many women to not only go into legal careers, but to understand that equality was something that we had to continue to fight for. And she did that for men too. She's just an incredible person. And you don't honor the legacy of an incredible person by being upset and wallowing. You stand up and you fight. So I know that I have that kind of fire happening right now. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But what I want to do is talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg as an historical figure first, and kind of talk about the foundations for this woman as we know her. Her early legal career was based on sex discrimination. So before she was, of course, a judge, she was the head of the women's division of the ACLU. So she argued cases before the Supreme Court. And Alex, I know you as a lawyer probably know a thing or two about some of these cases, but the one that stands out the most to me was how she got men on her side. Basically, they were all the justices at that point were all men. And she got men on her side by arguing for a man who was denied benefits because his wife had passed away.
Genius.
Yeah. So, how else do you get men on your side? You just have to show them that, they could have their rights taken away, essentially, right? So, she was a trailblazer for gender equity and equality in that way. So I want to talk a little bit with the group here about that. Yes, you were. I know. I asked your opinion and then you disappeared on me. That's okay. That's fine. Leave me hanging.
I was talking. I was talking and I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah, the case you're talking about is Moritz v. Commissioner, and it was a tax law case where the court had ruled that a man who had never been married did not qualify for a tax deduction, and she used the opportunity to advocate for a man and saying that he was being unfairly discriminated against on the basis of his sex as the reason why there was gender inequality. And through that argument, she was able to obtain a ruling that would make gender equality the law of the land with regards to the tax law. And she really was a trailblazer. And there are so many crucial cases with regards to gender equality were crucial, where she was crucially important to. That was just as her time as a lawyer. And, of course, she was only one of 2 law students at Harvard Law School who were female. And she was really quite something. And just a fantastic advocate.
I think we're all shattered by that loss. And I know that she, of course, weighed in on some very important decisions that had to do with women's rights. The Ledbetter versus Goodyear case, she authored the dissent on that. And that was really kind of the start of her becoming the big dissenter of the Supreme Court, because at that point, the court had moved towards the right. And of course, we have all of these, the conservatives and the conservative men who kind of countered her argument. How do we get men to understand this legacy? I want to talk, Madison, how do we smack men around?
And let them know about the importance of Ruth, of good old Ruthie. I mean, how do we get them engaged in it? Frankly, I'm not sure. I mean, I assume maybe making like a video game, that features Ruth, like slaying, like Supreme Court cases, like just being really cool. No, I mean, I think the way that you can humanize to other people is to just really sharing experience and like how Ruth's like life work directly affected us, right? So it's like, didn't she like argue cases for like women being able to have mortgages and like credit cards and stuff? Like, I think that if there's a way to be like, well, maybe this doesn't mean anything to you, male young person, I'm assuming, but like your mom or your grandma wouldn't be able to own a house or like have a credit card in her name, which meant that Christmas was going to suck. Like you weren't going to get like Xbox or whatever because like mom couldn't put it on the card and pay for it later. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that's the only way we can really do is talk about how the cases that she argued directly affect us today, Because I mean, there's so many things that I hear still where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I owe that to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's incredible. I did not know that. I had no idea. You know?
It's also wild, I think, to think about that in her 87 years, like she, and even less time than that, right? Because she was in her 40s as she was working for the ACLU and she was starting to argue these cases and everything. So, so she really kind of built her profile in her like late 30s, early 40s. And so we're talking 45 years ago that like, that all of these that all of these things kind of came together and she was able to secure rights for women. Of course, women on the conservative side may not understand just how much she meant to them and how much she's given to them. I always think about Phyllis Schlafly and I think about like Mrs. America. If you watch that on Hulu, that like the whole argument was, well, my husband lets me do whatever I want. So like I'm liberated just fine. I worry about conservative women and how other women may not understand what she did or, on top of men. I worry about men all the time because I don't necessarily think that they get it either. Ebony, do you have any thoughts about that, about women and what they, what they bring to this argument?
Oh, I think conservative women do know. It's the reason why conservatives have no historical figures of their own and why they have to co-opt the historical figures of the left, like the Susan B. Anthony list. Susan B. Anthony was not a conservative. You may have critiques of Susan B. Anthony, but she was not on their side. But they don't have any figures like this, so they have to take them. And so they're going to do this with RBG. They're going to find a woman on the right, and they're going to say, this is our RBG, and we're going to have to reconstruct history for them and make them aware that this is not the case. That all of their conservative women rights, all their conservative women judges, all their conservative women vice presidential candidates have been built on the backs of what the left has offered women, because the right has offered women nothing but lack of birth control and back-to-back pregnancies. So I think I will remind them of that, and I hope that you all will too. And then we'll get our brothers and our male friends in line as well. But I'm going to tell my conservative women friends the real history.
I wonder if
No, go ahead, Madison.
Like, what if there would be one way to do it might be also to have a touring like collection show of her bibs. You know what I mean? Bibs and gloves, and then all of us just take like the collar bib thing, and like all of us
the dissent collar.
Exactly. We take all of our like, people like homegirls who are like, oh, I don't know, and like dudes who we don't really like mess with like that. Like we just take them as like, oh no, you have to go with me. I have 2 tickets. You owe this to me, and look and like show them through the history of the bib. You know what I mean? And the low ponytail, the low bun. I mean, that was also her vibe.
That's right. Low bun, heavy glasses, like heavy glasses.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Whole mood.
I mean, I am struck by when I see images of young Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like in her ACLU days, I'm struck by just the energy that I see and just the look of the scarf tied in the hair. That was like her signature back then. And it's just like
iconography. I mean,
yeah, we think of her as this very, in her later years, very frail, older woman. And we think of her as like this grandmotherly figure, but she was truly like a ball buster, right? Like, I mean, her entire career was built up on, on this energy that she had, this relentless pursuit of equity for women. And Ebony, you brought something up about how Republicans kind of like, we give them the examples. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I was thinking about this in terms of the Supreme Court. So of course, Reagan nominated Sandra Day O'Connor as the first woman on the court. And she was a pretty moderate justice. As you know, back then you didn't really have polarized justices on the court. So, but what's interesting is that I think that Republicans see what we do and then they try to replicate it. So, of course, Thurgood Marshall, first black man on the Supreme Court, he passes away. And then who is he replaced with? But Clarence Thomas. So it's like, let's get a black man. However, we're going to get possibly the most backwards black man that is eligible to be on the court, and that was a huge disaster too.
To quote Mariah Carey, them chickens is ash and I'm lotion. You know what I mean? They're really just like trying to like come for our whole vibe and look, and it's like you want to be us, but you can't be us. You know what I mean? That's really
right.
That's it.
Yes. So you end up with people like Thurgood Marshall, who I kind of feel like what are not Thurgood Marshall, I'm sorry, but Clarence Thomas, who I feel has brought the court back several decades just with his presence. And of course, one of the interesting things too about these conservative justices is that I was doing the math. Clarence Thomas is only 72 years old. So he was just a touch older than we are. Really, he was in his early 40s when he was.
I don't know
put
how
on
old you are, but I'm very young and pruned. You know what I mean?
I know you're 21. Okay, I know that you're really 21. Congratulations. I am 38, and I feel as though like somebody 4 years older than me ends up on the court for the first time, right? So it's just like, and then of course he's there our whole lives, like he's still there, and he's to the far right. So we'll talk a little bit more about the people who they are looking at replacing RBG with, despite her last wishes. But I want to talk also about how her early days in the court, she was appointed as a federal judge by Jimmy Carter, because one of the Carter administrative initiatives was to take a look at the judiciary, and he looked and said, they all look like me. Like, this is nuts. So he basically used his time. He never got to appoint a Supreme Court justice during his term, but he used his time to diversify the court. So where are we now with diversity on the Supreme Court? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, I just have one question. This thing that Jimmy Carter did, looking for diversity, right, and finding the best of the diverse pool. What do we call that? What's the name for that in our culture? Affirmative action, right?
Affirmative action, yeah.
Word, affirmative action. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg benefited from affirmative action, right? Taking a look at the people who heretofore weren't looked at and choosing them. I just wanted to name that. That's all.
Well, you're a teacher, Ebony, and one of the things about we're getting some feedback from someone. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Maybe it's just me. But you're a teacher, and one of the things that I notice about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her style is that she took every opportunity in any argument to educate and to ask those questions, right? So I just find that to be very interesting.
That's what you have to do in our country. You have to stuff in the vegetables because we don't really like to learn. So you got to sneak it in there.
That's right. And to Madison's point, where she's talking about what we have to do, in order to educate people and bring them on our side. We have to have those kind of baseline conversations and treat people like we're teachers in a way, right? You don't. And that was one of the things that she said. I watched the documentary RBG, and she always brought people on her side, not by yelling, not by trying to prove them wrong, but by taking it as an opportunity to teach. So what have we learned from that?
She's an effective communicator. You know what I mean? We could all really take something from that in our lives. Is it me who's making that noise? Oh my goodness.
It might be. I don't know. It's Ruth. According to Mackenzie, it's Ruth.
Yeah. That's a spirit talking.
Ruth! Also, she was a big fan of being concise. Her dissents were oftentimes really short and to the point. And she's also known for having been kind of, in her later years on the court, being kind of, people thought that she was sleepy. They could characterize her as droopy, but she was so plugged into the arguments that were being presented that she would oftentimes sit silently and then cut somebody down with one line. And famously in 2019, Brett Kavanaugh was trying to wrestle with the one man, one vote concept, and she just zinged him with a one-liner, just looked over her shoulder. Well, I guess that defeats one man, one person, one vote. And it sort of just shut down the whole argument. That was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was sharp to the end, and I'm really anxious to talk about the implications of what it means that her seat is now vacated. But because I think it's really important to note that her dying wish was that a new Supreme Court justice not be appointed or confirmed until a new president is elected. So, I'm going to skip ahead.
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because I do want to get to that as well, Alex. So, I did outline, of course, that we talked about her dissents being her calling card, and that was kind of something that happened as the court kind of leaned a little bit more to the right. She had to kind of stand up for the left. Wait, was that you? What was that?
No, just saying sorry, I skipped ahead.
No. You don't have to be sorry, because we are getting to that point where we need to get into the meat of everything and what we do next. But I do want to talk about video games aside, because she, of course, may end up being the subject, as B-Rant says. I really hope someone makes that Ruth Bader Ginsburg video game. And come on, I mean,
it's happening.
I was literally on Friday distraught, telling my boyfriend, oh my God, she passed, whatever. And he's like, it's fine. I'm like, if there was a video game, he would understand. You know what I mean? He would get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And app developers, there's definitely a market for that. But she became a pop culture icon, of course, being the notorious RBG. And, she gave us this idea that a woman in her 80s could be this like just iconic figure to younger people. Do you guys think that we are going to start looking towards some of these older people? I mean, I know that we have people like Elizabeth Warren in her 70s, Bernie Sanders in his 70s, and of course our nominee Joe Biden is in his 70s. Like, are we shifting towards revering our elders in politics and government a little bit differently?
I don't think this was about her. I don't think this was about her age necessarily. It was about the legacy she left behind her with all those years, and in looking at just how profound an impact she had, it's impossible not to sort of pay respect to that. And I think that is what people were responding to. And it just so happened that she left many decades of a legacy behind her. I don't know if we are. I think we might be actually tending towards the opposite direction. I think that there seems to be, especially on the left, this idea that it's time for fresh, young, new blood. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a legend, and that's, she's one of a kind. I don't think that there's really replicating her. I don't know if the same idolatry and respect will be paid to others simply because of their age. But who knows?
Yeah, I don't know about any like Elena Kagan merch that's going to come out, but I am open to it, and I would be very interested to see like if anybody kind of fills that space. I think
really
she's great.
Elena Kagan. She's got great hair, and she's a hell of a softball player. I'll say that.
I did not know
Some
that.
Sotomayor merch.
Oh, I love Sonia Sotomayor. I love her.
I will say that the right is really good with that pipeline of young folks and moving them through, and we need to do that. We need to cultivate that pipeline of brilliant people in their 20s and 30s so we can have future RBGs and future Elizabeth Warrens. We need to get way better at that. We can't just let the young folks flourish and not mentor them. I think our side needs to do better with that.
Yeah, I think there's a big, I think that right now the young people, I mean, my boyfriend's little sister lives with us, and she's 20 years old, and it has been very eye-opening to learn like straight from the Zoomer's mouth, like what is kind of happening generation-wise. And I feel like at this very moment in time, they're probably like the rest of us really struggling through this pandemic. But I really think that I have so much hope for them because they are, they just have that energy. And I think that the future icons will be forthcoming, but a lifetime's achievement and works takes a lifetime to achieve that work. So, yes, we're getting young people in, yes, it will happen, but it's basically going to take a lot of time for somebody to achieve like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And, hopefully that will happen with some of the younger people coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, she was 60 when she was appointed to the Supreme Court, when she was nominated, and that I think definitely shows that sometimes like you look at Elizabeth Warren, who was elected to the Senate for the first time when she was in her 60s as well. You definitely have this idea of people who rise to prominence later, and therefore they reflect a younger mindset in a way. And I hope that makes sense. But I kind of think that sometimes that's something that ends up happening when we get these figures, these historical figures, who, come into power a little bit later in life, is that they reflect something younger because they haven't been part of the machine for years. They weren't appointed to the Supreme Court at 42, Clarence Thomas, so they end up actually like coming in with fresher perspectives because they've been out in the world. So, I want to get into it because now we have to talk about this is the weekly read down. This is when we get into the deep part of our story. And right now, of course, we have our one story being about the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg when she died on Friday. The GOP took absolutely no time before Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell released a statement applauding Ginsburg for all of her achievements and accomplishments in her legal career, and then saying at the end that he would float a nominee, or that the president would float a nominee, and that nominee would get a Senate vote. We have 42 days, 41 after tomorrow, until the election. The legislative calendar currently has about 11 working days left in the session. There are incumbent senators who are running for re-election, certainly very much in trouble, and need to go home in order to campaign. And McConnell would like to take a process that normally takes 70 to 90 days and jam it through in half that time. So 70 to 90 is also the fast estimate. I don't know where to start here, so I'm going to give it over to Alex.
Thank you so much. I cannot begin to describe how putrid of a person Mitch McConnell is because of his brazen hypocrisy. Mitch McConnell is the worst type of hypocrite because he's a knowing one and a shameless one. He knows that he denied Barack Obama his Supreme Court pick in 2016 because, quote, the American people should have a say at the ballot box, even with 11 months left before the 2016 election. Now we're about 40 days out from the 2020 US presidential election, and no qualms at all about flipping the script on his own narrative, his own precedent, and the hypocrisy of that. The brazen power grab is bad for the institution of the United States Senate. It's hypocritical, and plenty of Republicans also on videotape, which I know we're going to talk about, saying the same thing. If a Republican president is president in 2020 and we have an open vacancy on the Supreme Court before the election in an election year, we should not vote to confirm until after a new president's elected. And yet it's that logic is completely gone, and it's extremely frustrating, especially since Ruth Bader Ginsburg's dying wish. Not that her dying wish sets any sort of legal standard or anything, obviously, but he's talking about in his statement how much he honors her and is so full of glowing and complimentary. And then in the same statement, just totally just spits on her legacy and on her dying wish and moves for his power grab. Mitch McConnell is beneath the dignity of the United States Senate, and I deeply regret that someone so deeply unpopular, even in his own state, will remain in that seat, God knows for how long, because he's a shitbag and a terrible human being, and he may be even worse than Trump to me, because Trump is stupid, and he's greedy, and we know his MO. He's a sociopath. Mitch McConnell is something much more insidious, and I honestly think he's worse than Trump in terms of just what a vile threat to our democratic institutions and norms he has created by doing this power grab. And I hope that Democrats respond in kind at the ballot box. And I think you're absolutely right, Jonathan. I think that our side is extremely invigorated by this, extremely invigorated by his hypocrisy. And I'll note, Democrats in the days since Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death have raised $100 million, which is, it breaks every fundraising record, known fundraising record in terms of fundraising by a lot. We broke fundraising records for the most money raised in a single hour. And then in the following hour, the second most money ever raised in a single hour, according to Act Blue. So, yeah, the fight is on, and we may lose the Supreme Court. We may lose it for a generation, but God knows people are engaged now in a way that I think is unprecedented. So,
and I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, I think I need a cigarette after that. I don't even smoke, but that was whoa, that was a lot. It was some good energy.
Obama law professorial, very, yeah.
I know. Let's get you on a court. Like I want to talk a little bit about that because you. Yeah, there you go.
when I give my rulings.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about, kind of the hypocrisy of everything, because, of course, you have Mitch McConnell, who held that seat away from Merrick Garland in 2016. And then, of course, just held it open until Trump was elected, which was a disgusting abuse of power. But because of that, he kind of set this like fake rule and fake precedent for the Senate that other Republican senators had to twist themselves into a political pretzel in order to defend. So, this idea that if we are in a presidential election year and there is a Supreme Court vacancy, that vacancy should not be touched until the new president is elected or the current president is reelected. Either way, we need to find out if the people have a mandate. Every Republican senator defended this new idea in between 2016 and 2018. And as late as 2018, after the Kavanaugh hearings took place, Lindsey Graham, Lady G, who is running against Jamie Harrison, who is an incredible candidate in South Carolina, and they are pulling neck and neck. Quinnipiac actually was it Quinnipiac or Monmouth? One of the big pollsters this week had that race tied at 48-48 South Carolina. So this is something that can absolutely flip. Lindsey Graham said at an Atlantic presser, because he just loves the media, because he loves talking so much like I do in this episode. I seem to be talking a little bit too much for my own liking, but I want to cue up this clip because he basically said the same thing that other senators have said. And the Lincoln Project, our Republican friends over at the Lincoln Project, put together an ad, and I am thrilled about it. Let's show that ad.
I'm a conservative, want conservative judges on the court. This may make you feel better, but I really don't care. If an opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term and the primary process has started, we'll wait till the next election. I want you to use my words against me.
You're on the record.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold the tape.
Lindsey Must Go and the Lincoln Project are responsible for the content of this ad.
Just, I'm so... I think that... Here
Fuck
he is. He's back.
you, Lindsey Graham.
Crazy.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
heinous, hypocritical piece of shit. I hope Jamie Harrison wipes the floor with your pathetic, spineless, boneless ass. Fuck Lindsey Graham. I hope everyone watching this donates money to Jamie Harrison. Look at that. It's on display for you. It's on display. It drives me insane, that video.
Also, I'm so sorry, Alex's mom, for what, we just saw.
She's sitting in the other room, probably agreeing, actually. Because she's
Probably agreeing. Yeah. And, listen,
no lies.
Lindsey's not the only one. Joni Ernst said something that's exactly the same as that, and she's in Iowa in a tight race against. I wish I had that, but you can go back and you can watch it, right?
You can run through a Rolodex of the Republicans who are on tape. Chuck Grassley. We've got Senator Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. It's absurd. The flip.
Yeah. Are we and Ebony, Madison, I want to hear from you on this. Are we setting this up so that basically Republican senators, that we have this dirt on them and we can just show constituents? Is it going to matter to them in their states?
I hope it will matter if they have any sense of integrity. I don't know if they do. And everyone talks about talking to their Republican friends. I only have two, and they're in Connecticut. So I don't have the insight into that. What do you think, Madison?
I don't know. I don't know. Here's the thing. There's been so much that's gone on in 2016, I thought, well, surely people will see through the BS and the malarkey of what the Republican Party has become and is and represents. And I thought for sure this, and then I was just gravely disappointed November 2016 and have been pretty much upset and disappointed every day since then. So I don't know what it will take for folks to wake up and see that this party does not have their best interest in mind, to see that they have let them starve during a pandemic, haven't given them any support or resources for them, their children, their family, their elder, people in the community. Like, I don't know what it will take. I'm sick of their shit, but I don't know how much what other people's threshold for that is. I hope it's now. I hope we see the end of this presidency and some of these Senate members to be out the door, but I've been disappointed before, so who knows.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up about pandemic relief, Madison, because of course it's worth noting to voters across the country that Mitch McConnell and the Republican Senate are going to hop right back into work and use the next 40 days in order to jam through a Supreme Court nominee. Whether this person goes up before or after the election, that's another thing that people have been talking about, but they haven't touched any further COVID relief aside from $1,200 to select people, and there are a lot of people who really need that money who didn't even get it in the first place.
I mean, there's people, the statistics are there's more hungry people right now in America than ever before because the economy shut down because of a mishandling of a public health crisis. I mean, it feels endless, and I don't know what will wake people up, but I hope this is that moment.
Yeah, this very well may be.
Super important to note that Donald Trump intends to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat with a conservative who will overturn the Affordable Care Act, which and the pre-existing conditions protections that are encompassed in that legislation. So if you're one of the 6 million people in the United States who got coronavirus, who has permanent lung scarring or permanent long-term blood clotting and need medical care, and the Affordable Care Act was protecting your pre-existing condition, guess what? Trump and his new Supreme Court will have it so you can't get health care anymore because you got coronavirus. And his shitty, inept, ineffective response to the coronavirus that led you to get sick in the first place is going to be nobody's responsibility but yours. So it's absolutely crucial that if you are concerned about the Supreme Court, that we elect Democrats in the United States Senate and take back the White House. And the very first thing that a new democratically controlled government should do is to end the Senate filibuster, expand the Supreme Court by 2 seats, and add DC and Puerto Rico as states and give them statehood. So we add 4 more senators to the United States Senate who will vote Democratic. If Senate Republicans want to railroad through this charade in blatant hypocritical opposition to their own view from 2016, just because it benefits them, it's time for Democrats to go nuclear. And I think that they should. And I'm looking forward to it. Start donating to your Senate candidates now, because everything is on the line, including your health care, including a woman's right to choose, including gay rights, including so many of the social protections that we have worked for decades to win. They're going to be on the line. So this is our last stand.
Yeah. This is it, right? So I don't know. I was going to say something. I'm going to give it over to Ebony so that I can recover from the stroke that I just had.
Do I just give you a stroke every time? I'm sorry.
Yes. You make it plain. That's why.
Yeah.
I think that the donating is so important. I know a lot of my friends, a lot of my teacher friends feel the money aspect of politics is so gross. But I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up working class, but America costs money. And if you don't want these gross people on the right in power, you got to write checks, $5 checks, $7 checks. Go on Act Blue. Sometimes I donate like $2 to everybody that I can on Act Blue out of my teacher salary. Like, we just have to make it happen. We have to give till it hurts. Like, we have to make this happen. We have to phone bank. We have to fundraise. We have to call our friends. My 25-year-old brother, I think, is just on the cusp of the lower end of millennialism, Gen Z, but I'm getting him to bring his friends. We have to make this happen. We have to keep Roe. We have to keep gay rights. This is it. I know he said 2016 was it. We messed that up. This has to be it. Or life as we know it, all of us folks here in these 4 squares, we need to preserve democracy for all of us. I know that's what I'm trying to do for the next 41 days as of tomorrow.
And
You know-
Ebony, can I just tag on to that? I know I've been talking a lot. Can I just say though that we told you 2020 is not the most important election of our lifetimes. The most important election of our lifetimes was in 2016. And we told you it was. We told you it was over and over and over again. And for those that voted third party, who sat it out, who didn't show up, who didn't take it seriously, now you see. But what are we going to do about it? Because there's no going back, and I'm not interested. I'm not interested in blaming anyone anymore. I used to be really mad at the burners. I don't care anymore. Burners, you are my brother and my sister. It's time to get on board. I don't care if you're socialist, independent, Democrat, moderate, progressive. I don't care how you identify. This is us against literally the worst threat to our democracy, and it's in its history. So climb on board. Start donating to Democrats up and down for RBG. Hashtag for RBG.
I was going to say, I've recovered from the stroke. I'm back. I was going to say that Republicans are going to come after us and say that this is a power grab, that we want to give DC statehood. Puerto Rico, if Puerto Rico wants it, that is actually a little bit more of a complicated situation than I think a lot of us on the left are wrapping our heads around. But for sure, DC does want statehood, and they want that equal representation. So of course they're going to say, well, now they're going to add 2 senators, to the left, and that's going to be just this egregious power grab. And they're going to add Supreme Court seats, which is something that Joe Biden hasn't out and out said that he would do, but that was part of Pete Buttigieg's plan. And Pete Buttigieg is a close advisor and friend to Joe Biden at this point, so that you can definitely expect that people are going to be floating that, expanding the judiciary and appellate courts, throughout the country as well. So, they're going to talk about this, but really what this is an expansion of democracy. This is basically creating a democracy that does work for everybody, because we are giving equal representation to the residents of Washington, D.C. There are more of them than there are people in states of Wyoming and Vermont. And they certainly deserve to have their representation with 2 senators and a voting member of Congress. So keep that in mind. If we start to have these arguments and these discussions, I just want people to keep in mind that this is a way for us to expand democracy to other American citizens, and certainly to Puerto Ricans who need the attention of the federal government, because they were decimated by a hurricane just two and a half years ago. And the response on the federal side was not nearly enough, because of course the president didn't understand that they are Americans as well. So, this is certainly a way for us to, yes, expand, our representation on the left, but this is really about us shifting from a minority ruling government over to something that looks more like the entirety of the country. 60+% of Americans do not want to see Roe versus Wade overturned. Yet there is a Supreme Court primed to do that. Trump is talking about naming Amy Coney Barrett or Barbara Lagoa, who are 2 very far right-wing women, to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And they would, on day one, be ready to repeal the ACA and overturn Roe v. Wade. So we are definitely in danger. We are going to see some of these things overturned, and it's upon us to expand the court in order to make that work. And we need to pressure Joe Biden and the Democrats to make that happen. I just stood on a soapbox, and this is the end of our weekly read down segment. And I want to give it up to open the library, because now we're going to go through and have some monologues and just talk about what it is that we want to stand on a soapbox and yell about. I know that we've been doing a lot of that this episode, but Madison, I want you to think about it for a minute. So I'm going to pass it over to Ebony to start, okay? And then we'll kick it over to Alex and then you, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Perfect. Ebony, what's your library read this week?
All right, I have 2 mini lessons this week. Twitter bots are out of control today. We have Ice Cube talking about which party is going to be best for people like me. All sorts of wild, crazy ADO stuff going on. We have to just tell people who don't know that these people are bots, that they're here to generate discord. It's happening right now. I'm seeing it on my timeline. It is wild, okay? We are not maybe going to vote for the Green Party. We are not maybe going to vote for random parties no one's ever heard of, okay? We have two options, and it's not the party of Trump, people. So we have to be aware of this, all right? And on the positive side, there are people running in states like West Virginia, Louisiana, and Mississippi who are getting zero attention. So Adrian Perkins in Louisiana, Mike Espy in Mississippi, and Paula Jean Swearengin in West Virginia. It looks like those races are still leaning right. But with money and attention and support from we the people, those races are winnable. And we need to support these people who are running in red states right now. Give them your money, not just for the people who are maybe going to win, but the people who maybe it doesn't look so good. Support those people who are doing the hard work in tough red states. So Swearengin, Perkins, and Espy, look them up, support them, post about them, tell your friends. And that is my Tuesday read for democracy.
Politics is all about connection. It's all about who you talk to in your networks and making sure that those people get out. And one of the things that happens when you give money to a campaign is that they are able to fund those people who are going to make those pieces of outreach actually happen. So that's really good advice, Ebony. Thank you so much. Alex, what are you going to read? You already did it, but I want you to open it up again. You're on mute again.
I know. I've done it. Senate Republicans, you are a vile bunch of shitbags. And also, there were some of you like Senator Cory Gardner from Colorado, Senator Mitt Romney from Utah, that we thought that we would be able to pressure because of, for instance, Mitt Romney was the only Republican to go to convict Donald Trump in his impeachment hearing in January. We thought maybe he would be reliable on this because he maybe stands for truth and honor, and no such luck. Mitt Romney said today he will take up the vote. Cory Gardner announced today he will vote to confirm Donald Trump's nominee without even knowing who the nominee is, which is fantastic. So I'll note John Hickenlooper is running to unseat Senator Cory Gardner in Colorado. Give him your money. Mitt Romney is not up for re-election, but look, Joni Ernst in Iowa, she's got a fantastic Democratic opponent by the name of Teresa Greenfield. Give her your money. We can flip these seats. I'm tagging on to what Ebony said. If this hypocrisy drives you nuts, give your money. I've been giving. I've just been giving. I'm like, take all my money. Take it all. So, we're not going to have any Republican support on this. We didn't really go over it, so I'll just mention it tonight that Nancy Pelosi did suggest that she's not taking off the table the possibility of impeaching Donald Trump or Attorney General Bill Barr to prevent this Senate confirmation hearing on Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee. And I hope that she does do that. I think it's time we started fighting fire with fire, and we know if she were to launch an impeachment inquiry and have the House vote very quickly and send it to the Senate, they would be forced to take that up as their number one task. So not all hope is lost, but in the meantime, aim for that Senate. That's my reading.
Yeah, they play dirty. And as my friend Douglas and I were talking this week, we have to play smart dirty. So we have to really kind of get in there and do that, Alex. I'm glad you brought up those Senate races. We will certainly be talking more about that next week when we talk about the debates and what we can do.
And in Arizona, Mark Kelly is running to unseat Martha McSally. It's a special election. So if he were to win that race on November 3rd, he will actually get seated and sworn in November 30th, possibly on time for this potential Senate hearing, confirmation hearing. So Arizona, Mark Kelly, he's in the lead. He's polling well. Give him your money. Let's put him over the finish line and get that done.
He is. Madison, what is your library read?
Oh, chow, I'm just exhausted. You know what I mean? Okay, first of all, everyone in the Senate is both simultaneously the greasiest, ashiest motherfuckers on the face of the planet. Can you just run us our fucking tax money back to us, please, and get the fuck out? You guys are eating during the pandemic. You guys are getting healthcare during the pandemic. Your families are safe. Y'all were the first people to get rapid testing, okay? Y'all trying to open up schools and do all this, the way that this is my gripe. I just have I'm directly affected by COVID-19. I don't have any work. I'm a professional stand-up comedian. All of my shows this year got canceled. I just started headlining right before the start of the pandemic, and then they just crushed my dreams. immediately because of the fucked up way they took care of us or didn't take care of us in this country. I'm just mad about that. And I feel like it's time to really, put on your big girl panties, put on your sports bra, bitch, and let's go. Let's get them, get to running, get to talking to your friends, text your cousin, call your homegirl from who, we need to not do it on the internet, but actually pick up the phone and call somebody, email them, text them, whatever. You just need to galvanize the people within your own network to vote so that we can fix what's wrong with this country. It's insane to me that we are basically stuck in this unending pandemic and we have this crazy baby fascist in office who wants to destroy what is left of this democracy. And it's let's fight for it. Let's try to fix it, y'all. But in order to do that, everyone needs to be registered to vote. You need to call your friends and everyone else and just be look, vote with a Democrat or shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Or be prepared to go down with the sinking ship, because that's what the fuck is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm sorry for saying fuck so much, but my mom is from Texas and uses fuck a lot. So, she's very pro fuck.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I felt comfortable saying it.
Totally. My mom was a Bostonian with a sailor's mouth. So it's fine for me, but I think it's okay because this desperate times call for us to use the F word as much as we possibly can. So yeah, no, I want to say, Madison, you are a phenomenal stand-up comic. I've done a show or two with you. You are so good. And I think that, and I see you out there working even though you're stuck at home on Zoom. So
baby, I got a ring light and a backdrop. I'm trying to make it happen. They say pivot. Yeah. I said where. I really am twisting, trying to make it work.
And you're doing it. So I applaud you and anybody else who has been decimated by COVID and is stuck at home, and they are doing just the best they can to make life continue to happen. My read basically goes off of what all of you guys were saying, but I want to do a little personal history. In 2002, I was a college freshman and I volunteered for my first campaign. It was Shannon O'Brien running for Massachusetts governor. She was such a dynamic, wonderful candidate. Of course, a Democrat, and she was running against another woman, our governor, Jane Swift, who was the youngest governor in, I think, in American history. She was only 34. She was a Republican. And it was a very interesting race until at the last minute before the Republican primary, somebody swooped in and challenged Jane Swift because she wasn't liked enough. And that person was Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, I've always known that you were a carpetbagging motherfucker piece of shit from Utah who came to Massachusetts just to run for governor, just to have that seat so that you could then springboard yourself into either chairing the Olympics or running for president. Two things that you did exceptionally poorly. And now here you are as Utah's senator, and we thought that maybe you'd have a little bit of a moral compass, but no, I always knew that. I always knew that you didn't, Mitt, because you came into Massachusetts, you ran for governor, and then about 18 months after taking office, you disappeared and let your lieutenant governor do the job for you. Another woman who had to clean up after your shit. Mitt Romney, go fuck yourself. I will never forgive you for the fact that you just floated into this Utah Senate seat after doing the damage that you did in Massachusetts, after ending the political career of someone who I felt would have been one of the best governors that we had ever seen in Massachusetts, who maybe could have ended up running for president someday. But because of that campaign, she became so disheartened that she went into private life, and we haven't heard from that very important voice ever since. So Mitt Romney, I absolutely hate you, and I will continue to sing that from the mountaintops. that is my read. This has been the Read Down, and we are over time, but this was such a great episode. And, you know, let's just continue to remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg and carry on her legacy and fight for all the things that she fought for. I am thrilled to have been joined by my co-hosts, Alex Mohajer and Ebony Murphy-Root. Thank you, guys. And Madison Shepard, our special guest, thank you so much for joining us. Can you please tell us where we can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Madison Shepard or Instagram at Madison_Shepard. You can also buy my comedy album, Good Night, Silver Lake Lounge. Listen, it's only $5 on my website. I know you could stream it, but you know, this FEMA money's slowly running in. So please help me, feed me. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. We will. I'm going to buy your album and donate to all the Senate candidates that we talked about tonight. So thank you very much for joining us on the Read Down. This is a production of the Stonewall Democratic Club. You can join us for $25 a year, as little as $25 a year, and also visit us at stonewall.vote to learn more about what we are doing this year on the election with the National Vote at Home Initiative. We will see you next week at 7:30 or shortly after, as soon as the debate is over. I cannot wait. Please tune into the debate and then find us here, youtube.com/Stonewall Democrats. That's all for this week. I'm Jonathan Welch. Good night.